Click the bell icon to get latest videos from Ekeeda.
Hello friends. Today is the most important and a very crucial topic which we are going to discuss today. It says parts of an email. So friends, of course, we all email every day. We do emails to various people. But then what is so important in an email? So why do we put an email in a particular format or a particular pattern is something that we are going to discuss today. Now, it's very important, first of all, to know more than anything else what are the different parts which make up our email. So, the complete email. What do you think those parts are for what and why? Parts like the two column CC, BCC, subject line, attachment. There is the entire body of an email, right from the opening to the closing of the mail, like we did for the telephone etiquettes as well. This is the same thing or same pattern that we have to follow for email etiquettes. So friends, it's very important for us to know each and every part in detail so that we are sure that what we are doing is on the mark, up to the mark, and we know what really we mean by doing a particular thing. So let's go ahead and let's discuss about certain confidential parts of a mail which are related to why we do certain things at certain given point of time. So there are three addresses or three blocks, I would say, where we mention our email addresses. One is definitely the two, one is CC, and one is BCC. Let's see what we really do while we put addresses here and what it indicates. So as you see on the slide behind me, that the column 2 or the row 2 is specifically for the email address that you put in, of course, for the people to get that email. So this is specific to that person whom you're sending that email to. So suppose if I am sending an email to one of the company for my profile or whatever, so I have to definitely mention the profile email address so that it goes right in the email box of that particular person only. So definitely it's confidential because I don't want that information to go to any irrelevant person who is not really in the loop, or who is someone who is not really in the matter of facts or the topic concerned. This is majorly why we have the two column, and of course, like we put the entire address on a letter, it's very important that the letter should reach that particular destination only. That same way we put email ID on the two blocks so that we know that this email has gone far and reached that person particular only. Now let's go to the CC. Now CC is any other person who benefits from this email. So if I'm putting a mail to, say, the CEO of the company where I feel the HR has to be in the loop, I also put the mail to the HR. So that's the CC column where I've mentioned her email address or his email address as an HR of the company, whom I feel that whatever information I'm sending to the CEO, finally the working has to be done by the HR. That's why the HR's email ID is also very important. And because it's not directly to the HR and it's via an indirect message, which just to keep the HR in loop, it's not in the to bracket, it's in the CC bracket. So that's one major use of CC people don't really understand, and they keep putting a lot of email addresses in two. So people who do not have to be plugged directly, or people who do not have to be get into direct conversation, or that's not like the first point of contact, we do not have to put in the two, we can put them in CC. That's why the CC column is there. So this is complete idea of why we use CC in our email, for the emails. Now here also, this I personally would label it as confidential again, because again this is something where you really know who has to be in the loop. So anyone who's not relevant also need not be in CC. So if you're if a friend has given you a reference that you can put up, or if your friend has given you a reference, through her reference you've reached the CEO of the company, and you've putting the two column to CEO and then the CC column to HR, but then you want your friend to know we cannot put your friend's email ID just because she needs to be in the loop in CC, because that's again something where all of you all come to know, and it has to be really confidential. People would coming out thinking that why does this person who's not in the loop at all needs to be given this mail. So there is, there's always a misinterpretation or a mismatch of ideas where you would land up asking, people would land up asking questions to you that why this kind of irrelevant information, no matter how relevant it was to you, not for the situation anyway. So this is the importance of CC. Let's go through the BCC. So BCC is something that a person whom you want to send the mail, by keeping it very, very and extremely confidential, where the other people do not come to know that that person has been also mailed or that person has been tagged in that mail. So it's very important to have a BCC only where necessary. Always remember, emails are not a private messaging, conveying thing. So emails are something which are completely public. I feel that any private thing that you have to discuss, it should not be discussed over the mail. It can be like just a phone call away, or maybe a personal interaction would do better. But emails are something where we do not actually want to get into interactions with each other, where we are talking privately on certain issues. So we must avoid BCC as much as possible. But still, if you feel that this is something really relevant and really confidential, which that person needs to know so that you don't get scrutinized at some point of time, where it comes to your own safety, I think that's the time where BCC is very important. Now, BCC is something where you have an email address in BCC which is not showcased to any of the 2NCC members. So no one can see who is in BCC. That's the major use of BCC. Like I told you, now a friend needs to be in a loop, but that friend doesn't need to be exposed to the CEO and the HR. Here is the time when you can use BCC, where you can put the friend's email address in the BCC, so the friend gets what emails you're sending to these people, and at the same time these people don't even come to know whom the message is gone to, accept them. So that's a very, very confidential place of sending your very sending a mail to a person where really you do not want anyone to know that you have done that. So these are three major areas where you can actually put your email addresses for various different purposes, to CC and BCC, as you can see. Now this is very important, because if you don't know what you can put in these columns, or what you can put in these brackets or captions, you don't know where the mail will land up to be. And I'm sure many of us know how to use this. BCC, many of us may be not knowing. Now you all know after doing the video. So let's move on to the next, and again a very important part of the mail. Before moving to the other part, let's see how confidentiality is also important in our mail, and why do we say that. First of all, emails are not private, as I told you. Avoid sending confidential, sensitive, personal, potentiality embarrassing messages to anyone, any of us on the mail. Any person who is supposed to be discussing a very personal issue, please do not put it on mail. While sending the same email to several people via CC and BCC, remember that the addresses are visible in the CC box, whereas they are not visible in the BCC box. So please understand what is the difference. Use a blind copy, which is BCC, which is blind copy, or mail merge function to protect the privacy of your contacts. So you can have the BCC to prevent your contacts. So you can have a contact details in your BCC where not anyone can see your contacts. So this is some confidentiality insights that I've given you about this particular form of captions which we use in our email every day regularly. Now let's move on to the next most important part of an email, which is of course the subject line. Now, if you're writing a story and the story doesn't have a title or the name, that story is useless, because at the end of the day, it doesn't make any sense. That's why even before reading any story, we always have a punchline, which is the title of the story. So if you've heard the story of a thirsty crow, where he puts the pebbles in the pot and the water comes up, it fills it up with the pebbles, and the water comes high and he drinks, and then he feels happy about it, and now he thinks that he's quenched his thirst. Now this is a very, very interesting story, but without the title, The Thirsty Crow, the story was not complete. Same way, every mail has a subject line. Subject line is nothing but a punch line which really tells you what you've written in the entire mail only by that one single line. So if you see a mail, the subject line, it talks about what is there in the email. We'll be doing a lot of examples on this also to help you get a lot of detailed idea. But right now, let's focus on what a subject line is. It is what email that you're putting, and how you talk about your mail is important. So suppose if you've put a resignation letter, it's very important to mention resignation letter before that person would read your letter, because that person gets an idea that you have resigned. That's what you've written in the entire mail. Many a times, if the subject line is blank and you don't write, or you forget to write the subject line, people do not understand what the mail is, and many a times they might just put it in the spam, because not everyone is free to read all the blank subject line messages. So that's why, friends, it's very important to write a correct punch in the subject line whenever we are writing a mail to anyone, and that has to be really relevant to your subject. That's very important. So this was why we use the subject line. Let's see certain importance of a subject line. The subject line is the first thing that target receives, sees, and sorting through their inbox. So when I have to sort my inbox, and whenever I am writing, if I'm an HR and I want to see how many people resigned last month, and if I put a resignation letter or resignation or any keyword which is related to resignation, she actually gets the entire mails sorted by their email addresses of who all were the people who resigned last month. So it's also very important when it comes to sorting your messages. So sometimes when you feel that you want to see only resumes, you can just have resumes. Subject line which consists of resumes, all of the resumes would come in front of you. Or if someone is specific and keeps writing you resumes for an HR, resumes for a receptionist, resume for the position of so and so, so and so. And if you have that system, it's very easy. You can just, if you just put in resumes for the position of receptionist, and the entire receptionist data comes in front of you. I do that majorly. So whatever resumes come to me, since I'm in this industry for a very long time, I also have sources where I can place my students or my candidates. So there, it's very simple for me. If I put this thing on the screen, it becomes very simple for me. I get all the bunch of resumes that I can actually go through. So this is one major importance also of a subject line. And other than just having a name to the mail, it's also important because when it comes to sorting, it makes your life easy. Always write a subject line that is informative, direct, and states the main issue of the email. We've done this, that it has to be a direct punchline. It has to be very, very straightforward and very informative. We cannot put an exclamations in the subject line because we are not guessing here. Many people do not understand why the exclamatory has been used. But then very informative information sharing, direct way of communication of what exactly we are talking about is that one line, or the one of line of certain words is the most important here. Keep it short. Long subject lines don't show well in the browser windows or are ignored. So we have to understand that we have to keep the subject line very, very short. We cannot have an entire thesis in the subject line. That is there that's the space that you can use for writing the entire mail. The body of the mail is there to write the entire thesis. But for the subject line, it has to be very, very short, right? It's just like a title. Use sentence case and not caps. Not necessary every word there has to be written in a caps lock. Many people have the habit, they feel that if I'm writing in a caps lock, it becomes more obvious to people and they read instead of ignoring. It's not like that. It has to be written in normal sentence cases, and definitely any subject line which is talking about the relevant email will be heard or will be read, rather than just putting it into caps lock thinking that we can put up a little more or bolder impression in front of people. That's not right all the time. When replying, change the subject line with the topic changes. Very important to change your line whenever the topic is changed. Now, suppose if you are, first you were writing a resignation letter, but now you're writing acceptance of a resignation letter. Now, here is something, two different things. In first scenario, you have written a resignation letter. In the second scenario, you're accepting someone's resignation letter. So these are two different things and two different punchlines for two different mails. So always remember not to keep the same subject line, or do not forget to change the subject line according to your email. So this were major importance of why we should have a subject line over the mail. Let's go to the next part of the mail. Now, we've seen the major parts of the email before entering into the mail, before entering into the proper mail body. But now let's enter into the mail body and let's see what are the different kinds of most important criteria where how a body of an email has to be designed or has to look like more than anything else. First comes your greetings, which is salutation. Now, this is something which has to be the first and the foremost, first and the foremost line, I would say, in a mail. So, if normally, even if you pick up the phone, you say, "Good morning, so and so," or "How may I help you?" and these are your punchlines over the call. When you write a letter, you always write to dear so and so, or whenever. So, anywhere you go, you always start your conversation with a greeting, like a good morning, hello, dear so and so, or whatever. Here also, a greeting is very important. So, a greeting like, so whenever you're writing a mail, of course, we do not write to now because that's to is already on the top. So what we write is dear Mrs. or Mr. So-and-so, dear Miss So-and-so. If you're not sure about Mr., if you're not sure about she's a Miss or a Mrs., you can always have a generalized term which is miss, which is used in major areas. So when a person doesn't know whether a female is married or not, we can always have or title her by miss. So we can have this dear Miss so and so, dear Mr. so and so, and then we can start our mail. So this is how we have to start our mail with, which is a greeting. Or you would also say, some people have the habit of saying good morning, dear so and you can start the mail. But majorly formal, if you see formal mails, they actually begin with dear Mr. or Mrs. or Miss so and so. So yes, the other major important part is the name. Instead of writing sir and ma'am, it's, if you don't know the name of that person, of course sir and ma'am is the best option. But instead of writing sir and ma'am, if that person is addressed by his name, it is always very warming for that person to read his mail by addressing him by his name, or by addressing him by his whatever last name or first name. And it's like more of giving respect to that person and saying that yes, I know you. So, dear Mrs. Karishma Goge is something that people could put up to me, and I would say, okay, that's nice that someone has addressed me by my name, and I'm now 100% sure that the mail is for me. So this is a very warm kind of a welcome, or warm kind of salutation that you give to your reader over the mail. This is how you make him feel. So more than anything else, we can put up these small things taken into consideration, dear Mr. Mrs. So and so, and then we can start the entire mail body. So this is the importance of an opening mail. Before even the opening sentence, this is something that you need to put and you need to understand. Let's see certain parameters of the greeting. Let's to give you a little revision. Always open your mail with a greeting. For formal or business emails, use the surname, not the first name. Now, majorly, people use the surnames or the last name instead of first name, like dear Mrs. Uh, Chopra or dear Mrs. Shetty or whatever. So people do that. But where you do not know the name, of course, dear sir or dear ma'am would do. And where, so instead of putting the entire name, we can have the last name in place. Or if you do not know the last name, then definitely the first name will work or will do. If you're contacting a company, not individual, you may write to whomsoever it may concern, to whom it may concern, or greetings from so and so. So you can write dear ma'am, sir, greetings, or you can write to whomsoever it may concern. So where you do not really know the name, and you're not representing a person, but you're putting a mail to the company and you want to talk to the company as a whole or the management as a whole, we write it like this and we start a mail this way by putting to whomsoever it may concern. So these are two major criteria: how to open your mail, or more than opening, how to greet. That's the first major part of your mail when it comes to the body of an email, right? So let's move ahead. Let's see what next we have on our platter. Then comes your opening sentence. Now friends, opening sentence is something that is again relevant to what exactly the mail is all about, right? So initially people used to think that they can just start talking about certain things, and they just used to go on, but the thanksgiving used to come at the last, or the later part of the email or the letter. But here, any proper good formal email where there is a thank giving statement, I feel it has to come to the initial part, because if a email starts with a thanksgiving sentence, it shows your positivity towards that mail, and that mail sounds very very appreciative. And we have to be appreciative, so that because we are assertive communicators, always remember we have to be very very appreciative whenever we are talking or making any comments, or before even we get into any kind of sentences exchange or dialogue exchange. So begin with a line of thanks wherever required. So if it is a thank giving note, please begin with a thank you or begin with a appreciation note. Find any way to thank target receives. So any target receivers, you please thank them or whatever. So suppose if you got your appointment letter yesterday, and you want to tell them that that was really prompt, and you really did not you got your appointment letter, and that you are so thankful, you can begin with a note of thanks. So you can begin with, it was quite appreciative, it was quite appreciable to have a appointment letter in place promptly from your end. And this is how you can begin with the entire story, then whatever you want to write in the mail. This will put them at ease, so the reader or your receiver will be at ease, and it will appear more courteous. So it will show that you are very very courteous, it will show you are very very positive and gentle person. For example, if someone asked a question, you can begin with, thank you for connecting to Tanza company, or whatever, XYZ company. So you can write, thank you for connecting to X company. Anyone just putting up email for any kind of information, this is something which you can definitely do, because he's got in touch with you. Thank you for connecting to us. So whenever I get in touch with any people, my first sentence is always, it was a pleasure connecting to you. So this is again a punchline in a positive way, that I was very happy and I'm very thankful that you connected to me. So this is something that we really need to remember, and this will make our mail sound very very courteous and very very polite. If someone replies to your mail, you can begin with, thank you for your prompt reply. So if now you're replying him, this is the time when you can also say, thank you for your prompt reply, and now you can reply to the mail whatever has come in your inbox. So these are certain criteria where we can use them for opening and mail. It's very important. Why? Because it sets up a mood of the reader to read your mail then further. So a good punchline of subject line, a good greet, and a good opening helps your mail to go easy and and convinces the people quickly. Always state your purpose. Now, when I say state your purpose in the opening sentences, where thank you for connecting to us, and what is the next step is, why are you writing the mail? Your opening should make it very clear why this mail is all about, what this mail is all about. So you can write, I'm writing to inquire about, I'm writing in reference to so and so. So then always start with a sentence. If it is an inquiry email, your first punchline or the first opening line should sound like you want to, that you've got in touch to inquire. If it is a contents or reference to something, then your first line always will be, I am writing in reference to so and so. So the people know that it is not an inquiry mail, but it is a reference mail, that you're getting in touch with that person for whatever reason. Don't write a long introduction, not necessary all the time. Very short introduction will do. Don't tell a story. It is not a story writing, it is a mail writing, right? So there's a lot of difference between a story writing and a mail writing. Do not write a mail in the form of a story. Never put up your mail in such a way where it will sound like a story, rather than having it short and sweet and up to the mark. Always have very short emails, very short introduction, up to the mark, so that it becomes very very easy for the person to understand what you're really talking. You can skip certain things which are not really important for your mail. Like if you're writing a mail of complaint, I don't think that you need to put up all the cribbings that you normally do when we are talking. We can crib while we talk, but we cannot put it on the email. So whatever are the things which you think can be neglected, you must neglect it. At the same time, your email should sound very sufficient and up to the mark also. Always remember, people just want to know what you want, what the mail is all about. To state that, it is the first sentence that makes them realize that yes, this is the mail about what we are talking. That's why it's very important to have the correct opening of a mail for any person to know what the mail is exactly about and what you want or what are you talking about. Now, after the greetings and the opening comes the part of the complete mail body. Now, what is the mail body about? And now we've come to a position where now the entire gist of what we are talking is now something that we can write it and we have to narrate it. So it is called the information detail, which is the body of an email. Very, very important, very, very crucial. So what does that state? How we need to put up a body of an email? What are certain things that we always need to remember while we are jotting down what we have to write in the body of an email? First of all, certain tips. Be brief but polite. Many people forget to be polite when they're being brief. They are so straightforward and cut short that they just say that's done, and they forget to be polite. But do not forget to be polite at every given point of time. Be brief but polite. Tell the viewer or the reader exactly what you want in short as possible in your mail. All right. So do not beat around the bush. Come to the point directly with a very polite virtue. If your message runs longer than 2 to 3 short paragraphs, reduce the message and put it in an attachment. You can provide an attachment rather than filling up the entire email body by writing the entire thesis or story, and you can put that short. So 2 3 paras fine, but then very very short paras, not like a real storytelling para. And you can attach, suppose if you think that it is an agreement, it cannot be put short, it has to be crystal clean and clear. Rather than writing the agreement over the mail, I would suggest that you can have an attachment which speaks in detail what you really want to, and in the attachment what are the exact points for that attachment. So these are some important points or tips from my side that you can do for writing a body of a mail. Always remember to say please whenever required and thank you whenever required. And it means a lot, because when you say please, it's something that is a request which people cannot neglect. And when you say thank you itself, your entire mail becomes quite appreciative. And that's why you keep a very polite and a courteous attitude towards that mail. So again, a major part, write about only one thing. So your one mail should contain one topic or one major thing that you want to cover up in that entire mail. So if possible, don't overwhelm the target receiver. So whoever is your target receiver, do not cover it up with a lot of different topics. Rather than that, have one topic over the mail. If you feel that there are 3 different issues that you want to discuss over the mail, you can have 3 different mails, but not in one mail. You cannot have everything covered up together. It would not create a good impression. Rather, it would confuse the reader or confuse the receiver. You would not know what are you targeting at. If you write about multiple things, what happens is there are multiple requests and there are multiple appreciations. We do not then relate, or the reader would not really relate of what exact appreciation is for which appreciative act that we did, or what exact request is for what exact request that you're asking for. You know how confusing it is while I'm talking also. Yes, so imagine the situation of a reader that if he cannot put it right, how can he read right? So your mail won't be read or will not be acted on. That is definitely because they would not know what to do and act on. And the receiver will only do one of these things. So even if you have 3 different things, the receiver would do only one thing which he feels at that particular point of time is more relevant and important and urgent. So that's something why I would say that you can have 3 different emails to get 3 different works done, rather than having one email and everything jotted down in one email. Stick to one subject line with one request. So any one request, like sanction my leave. So that's something that you can put just one subject line and with one request only. So the entire mail talks only about one request and not 2 3 requests in that. Once that's done, you can send the second one asking for another request. So this is very important, friends, to understand what exactly, if you have 3-4 things to talk, how we should talk over it, if they can be piled up in a mail or no. If not, then we can send multiple emails for different kinds of requests and different types of appreciation. So the body of the mail, no matter how much space can give you to write, we have to keep ourselves limited to maybe 2 to 3 paras, which are very, very short and easy to read and up to the mark, with definitely a spark of politeness. Now, there are certain sentences that you use, or statements rather, I would say, that you use while writing an email, which are not all the time used, but majorly used when you have a point of discussion, like use if and then. So these are two very important, what do you say, situations or conditions that you put while you're writing a mail. So why do we use this is to avoid back and forth exchange and save time. So it saves times back and forth exchange, and also it anticipates the possible responses. So it helps you to help people or helps reader to get into the anti participation of that particular situation. This is a particular situational type of mails that I'm talking about. When you have something like if, then we can do this. So if you have so and so, then we can do so and so. This is like a situation or a conditional mail that normally you put up formally. So give a desired action or each possible response. So this will be an action mail. So if you say what is an action mail, this is something that I would relate to, where you have a situation and you need to come down to a solution. So this is an action mail which has words used like if and then. For example, instead of asking if they have received a response, waiting for a reply, and then replying to that reply, try to do it all in one mail. So let me give you an example. I'll read it out. Did you receive a response from Mr. X? Okay. If so, please email the report to me on Tuesday. So if so, we are putting a condition. If so, please mail me the report on Tuesday. So by Tuesday, whatever. If not, okay. So I'm also saying if you have received, then do so and so. But if not, please follow and let me know the response today. So this is a situation and the condition that I'm putting on the reader, where I am actually giving him a point of action of what to act if the situation is this and if the situation is not this. So this is a situational, conditional and an action mail that we normally do. Now this kind of interaction happens with the superiors and inferiors, boss with the boss with the juniors, with our different colleagues, where we exchange our point of information and all of that. So this is specifically that we are talking about for this particular type of emails. Now friends, I'm sure that you've learned a better idea of how to put in your conditions in your email by using if you're using sentences like if and then. Now let's move on to the professionalism. So how would you keep it professional? Of course, don't use jokes, emotions and emotional attitudes in the mail. It's very important. If you are writing a formal mail, it's important not to joke over the mail, because we are not, many people have that habit of just forwarding the jokes that come in the email. If there is a joke email, they forward it with the normal email just to give a little humor to a mail. But that's not right. We are not supposed to do that. We are not supposed to add any emotional contents or any emotions in our email as well. Do not send inflammatory or emotionally charged comments via mail. So if we feel that someone has not felt bad and extremely hurt, we cannot write it that way or put it that way, but we can convey it in some way or the other. But we actually cannot write what emotional feedback or what emotional breakdown did we go through at that particular point of time. That's something we should never write in a mail. Don't use abbreviations such as please or roflol. So that's like rolling on the floor, laughing out loud. So lol, many people put lol. We cannot put all this. We cannot put please like plz, or no short forms or abbreviations is what I would say you can use. Many people say what's up that with, so WUWT. So we cannot put all this in a formal mail. This is only WhatsApp language that you can use over your chat, but not on the email. Here, if you have to write please, it's a full spelling of please. Here, if you have to write something relevant to the topic. First of all, lol and all this are not supposed to be written in the mail at all. But if you want to write please, or if you want to write and, so you cannot replace it with n, you have to write and. These are certain formal words that cannot replace with abbreviations, and this is something we have to take care of, because many of us, because we chat so often on WhatsApp or at different social media sites, and we are so used to writing this way that we actually forget that we are doing something very, very formal. Avoid exclamation points, eclipse, question marks, bold, it's like italics, underlines, multicolor fonts. Now this is something where email doesn't look creative, it looks nuisance. To make a email look creative, it's completely depends on what you write, what is your subject line, how is your opening, how formal are you, how polite are you, how courteous are you. All this makes your email look good. But when you say your email should look good by you putting certain points, exclamations, question marks, no, it conveys a very different message. A question mark put in a mail is taken very seriously, that you are questioning someone. So it's taken very seriously. Exclamation, if it is not an exclamatory sentence, we cannot put an exclamation at all. So this is also taken very seriously. These are some serious notes and very sensitive issues that we cover up in an email. People think that the mail looks pretty and it is more presentable. No, it is not. This is not the way a mail should be put up. Bold, italics, underlines are certain font styles which we can use for our attachment, in our attachment for a particular point of thing, but not really on the mail. So if you are writing a mail, I think the two major styles of fonts would be maybe Arial and Times Roman. So these are two very, very formal style of writing in email, which is accepted by masses, all, always. So not necessarily you have to put things in bold. When you put things in bold, it is, the reader feels okay, that means I'm not reading well, so you're specifying me these points. So he takes it very personally, rather than taking it in a different way. And multicolor fonts is of course something not uh, acceptable, because multicolor fonts again are something where, so always remember friends, your mail has to be written in black. Whenever we say mail is an information shared in black and white, so that's something that we have to always continue. That's a process. We cannot have multicolored fonts. That's not the correct way of putting up our mails. So remember these major things. Avoid exclamatory points, ellipses, question marks, bolds, italics, underline, and also multicolor fonts. These are some things which are very, very simple. Your mail looks nice, crisp, short, simple, and sweet, right? It is considered very rude if you use capital letters. Always remember why we say do not have capital case always on or caps lock on, is because it gives an impression that your mail is very rude, that you want to convey this point very strongly. So capital letters like this, because it means that you're shouting, so it conveys that you cannot hear me, so I'm shouting at you. This is something that I want to put down to a point at certain level, and I'm shouting at you, so because you are not able to understand what I'm saying. This is what it is conveyed if you put capital sentences in your mail. So if you have the caps lock always on, so remember to check before you send a mail whether some sentence is gone in a caps lock or everything looks normal and easy. And if at times, if you really want to shout at someone, if you want to have that kind of appearing, you can have these capitals, plus you can have question marks, and that's only when there is a superior or a senior person who wants to really shout at the subordinate of why the work has not been done. So this is something that you can do if you're an authorized person and you have the authority to do so. So this is some kind of things that you can avoid and can put to practice if your mail wants to look a professional email. So this was all about the body of an email, what your body should consist, how it should look like, how it should not look like. Now let's go to the later part of an email, which is the closing sentence. Now friends, closing sentence is very important, very crucial, because here we are ending our talk. Now, while ending our talk, it has to go through a very positive note, because at the end, we do not want to talk very nice, courteous, polite, and at the end, we just end it, and it's like, okay, it's done. So many people should not get, many people should not get the feeling of you ended it up abruptly, or it's a half communication, or it was not really sufficient to end your mail. So at that particular point of time, how do you close your mail is very, very important. Now, certain closing remarks that we are going to look at today. Always remember, courtesy is always important, no matter how short the email is. So whether your email is short, long, or whatever, you have to be very courteous. And of course, your closing has to be very courteous too. Before you end your mail, there are certain empathy statements or certain phrases that you can put in your mail, which says, thank you for your patience and cooperation, thank you for your consideration, thank you for your business, thank you for your valuable feedback. This is a thank giving note also that you can put at the end of your mail if it is a thanking letter or if it is a thanking email. Start with a thank, end with a thank in a different way. Include an accurate follow-up statement. So suppose if the email is a follow-up email, you can have say certain phrases like, I will send you additional information. I look forward to receive your input. If you have questions or concerns, do let me know. Looking forward to see you soon. I look forward to hearing from you. Now see, these are certain get in touch kind of closing statements where that person knows that you will again get in touch for some reason or the other. So this is very important, that if it is a thanking note, it has to be thanking. If it is a replying note, it has to be a replying note only. You cannot merge up both the things and have a merge up of both and not a vague closing, because that person would not know whether you have closed it with a thanks and the work is done, or you want to reply back, and it is a very confusing thing. So always have statements which are relevant to your mail, and your closing also relevant to what exactly you want out of the mail. If a response is required, specify what and when. So if you're saying that you are waiting for the input, so looking forward to hearing from you by 2 or 3 days and to get a valuable feedback. So this is like a simple thing that I want that person to get back with the feedback within 2 to 3 days, so he knows what next to do. So here you have specified what you want and when you want also. So it's very important to actually specify what and when you want, wherever what is required, and then you have a better closing to your email. Let's see certain professional closing statements for the email. So for professional closing, you can have closing statements like best regards, warm wishes, thanks, and warm regards. You can say sincerely or thank you or yours thankful, or that way. So you can have these kind of closings where you end the email. For casual emails, you can have like casual, as in if you're writing a mail to a friend or to a colleague, or which is not formal basically, or nothing to do with work. You can say best wishes, cheers. You can have these punchlines or these kind of greetings at the end of the mail. Many a times people actually do a very informal closing for a formal email. So if you're putting up a pattern of your working process, many people have that habit of putting cheers at the end of the uh, email. So this is something in professional, because not all the times can we end our mail with something like cheers when we've actually discussed the entire process of our working. So here it would be better if we can put something like thank you or sincerely or best wishes, regards, whatever. So we have to think that what kind of email it is to have the correct closing punchline. And for more formal mails, you can also put your sincerely, your faithfully, stuff like that. So yours would be added if you want to at all portray it as real formal email. So you can have yours, or but the best part of doing it is having a very normal way of putting it down, like the first three I told you: best wishes, warm regards, sincerely, thank you. These are certain notes which go with all the formal emails and doesn't need to be changed all the time. It can be like a signature part for yourself. We'll go to the signature part now. This was all about the closing of an email. Yes, as I said, now we are there. We are down to the or utmost closing of your email, the major part of our email, which is the signature. Now, here signature doesn't mean real signature. It means something. Let's see what signature means. So the email signature is what it is, what we talk about, not real signature. So a professional signature makes it easy to contact you. Here we have to understand that why do we leave a signature on the mail. Now it is very important to leave a signature where people can get in touch with you. If you've written such a big mail, if you've written something that you're conveying or getting connected to masses of people, we have to have a point where they can now get and connect to you back. Always leave a closing note or a signature which allows people to get back to you. Only your name will not be enough. Your email address, yes, of course, because it's come through your email address, they can reply you back. But what about personal things, like if they want to call you directly and they do not want to do any communication over the mail henceforth? Or if they want to send you something on your address, where would they send? So this is what a signature should consist of or should have. Your mail account can automatically add these data to the bottom of the email. Now there is a way of adding your signature to all the emails that you write. Let's see what all things are included in the signature first. Your full professional name, job title, business number or mobile number or whatever contact point of contact number that you want to give. Your business address is something like if you are representing a brand, if you're representing your company, you can have your business address also. Business website if you have any. So they have n number of ways to get back to you, not only number but also website, not only website but also address. So there are a lot of things that for them it becomes easy to communicate. They know that there are a lot of ways that they can get back to you. A legal declaration if required by the company. So some people write, like the insurance company, that conditions apply, or the subjects are the matter of whatever. So these are certain things which not all the mails would consist, so we'll not focus on that. But then of course there is a sentence which the statement which is called as the legal disclaimer wherever it is required. But initially, what 5 things we can focus on is definitely the full name, job title, business phone or business number, business address, and your website. The major 5 things that can be covered up in your signature. Now, the last thing that I told you, the legal declaration, is depending on the policy, whatever you have of the company. If they want to include as a link to the website, it can be done. So you can also have a link to the website. Instead of writing the website, you can straight away take the URL, take a link where they can click and they can go to your website directly. So see, so many ways of getting connected to one person over a mail. This is a proper closing. This is a proper signature where you can take off from your mail. Now, many of us do not really know how to create a signature. I'll give you a little gist of how to create a signature. I'll give you certain steps. So click the gear icon, which is like a setting. So it's called the setting or the upright, on the upright side, and then select settings. So that icon which you see, or the settings which you can see in the slide, click on that icon. It will go to the setting, select the setting. Enter your email, enter your signature text in the box at the bottom of the page next to the signature option. So next to the signature, you will see a text box which will have space for you to enter certain things. Now you can enter, like you can write Karishma Goge, soft skills trainer. So I would write Karishma Goge, soft skills trainer. I am a freelancer, so I would write my home address or my visiting card address, or I have a classroom, so I can have that address. I can have a website if I have, or I can have a web page where I can give a link, and that's everything that I can fill it up in my signature option. Then what I would do is I would click the changes, like I would click on the change button if I have to change any relevant information, and save changes is what I would do. So by doing save changes, whatever you've put there gets saved as a signature in all the emails that you send. So this is now come below your mail, and it is like a concrete thing which comes for every mail that you write. Okay, then signatures are separated by the rest of your messages by 2 dashes, right? So whatever is your message, there are 2 dashes, and then the signature is separated by them. To see the signature in Gmail, click the show trimmed content button at the bottom of your message. So if you want to see what signature has been put up, you can click the show trimmed content button, which is at the bottom of your message. Now this will help you to create a signature of your own, and you can type whatever you want in the signature box, keeping certain points in your mind, and you can have a wonderful signature which people would like and appreciate you and look at you in that particular way. So this, I think I've majorly covered up the entire parts of an email, each and everything in detail, and I'm sure it will make your life easy now to write a mail formally. And go through the video once before writing a mail. It will give you a very easy and a very simple thought process, and you will get into the practice of writing the mails in that way only. So I'm sure, friends, that this video has been a real help to you, and I hope I keep doing these kind of videos to help you get in a better situation. This is the correct form of email etiquette. If it is followed, your professionalism would definitely pay you. So really thank you for watching this video, and please stay tuned to our channel, and please get back to us and tune into Etiquette. Thank you so much.